They were just considered bad people, bad children, but they weren't bad children, okay? They were placed there for so many different reasons, but not because of any kind of delinquency on their part. But that is not how they were treated.
We went from washing up in the morning, and they marched us to the chow hall where we ate. Everything was routine, just like the military.
One of the superintendents during the time that my mother was there actually came from correctional services. And so because that person came with that kind of a background in corrections and working in penitentiaries, that's exactly how he decided that Thomas Indian School would be operated. Children marched from here to there, just everything, had its place. I talked to some of the men who went there. I would say majority of them went into the military. Military life was easy for them. They knew how to do all the marching, they knew how to line up, they knew how to dress with their uniforms, everything being exact, making the bed in a military style. They knew all that before they went into the military.
I was in A Division, my sister was in B Division. A whole lot of things that happened. Things that I can remember. When I was 6 years old, this man chased Rosemary and I from Mohawk Park because they took us all on an outing when it was time to come home. This man called us into the gazebo, told Rosemary and I that he had something for us, and that's where he tried to molest us. And we ran. And even now I have nightmares of running.
But my brother, he ran away after being here about 5 years. They never caught him. So
he said that we were really bad and we were born of the devil. And if we told anybody what he was doing, they wouldn't believe us anyway. And that's so true, because when he did, I think he had penetrated me that time. And I was bleeding and I was sore. And I went and I told the nurse. And she asked me what happened, so I told her. And she gave me a strapping, a real good strapping. And she told me, don't you ever speak about him like that again. She said, he would never do anything like that to you. So there I was again, getting another licking. And like now when I think about all the things that happened, I said, you're damned if you did and damned if you didn't, no matter which way you got a licking. And it just wasn't, just wasn't right.
And I remember this person telling me that any of the boys in his particular dormitory floor who were not circumcised yet at that point, without being told, were marched over to the infirmary, and if they weren't circumcised by then, they were circumcised, and if they didn't have their tonsils out by then, they had their tonsils removed. And I just couldn't imagine from his story how this could take place, number one. And number two, back in those times, in the late 40s and early 50s, they didn't have air conditioning like we had. And just the whole trauma of that personal invasion.
We were always having a physical. And then, like I said, if you had a hangnail, you had to go see the doctor. And if you got caught sitting on the ground or holding hands with the boy, you had to go see the doctor. They were all the time checking to make sure that everybody was a virgin. So in the summertime when we went out to work, he would give us a physical. And then when we came back, we'd get the physical. I said, and you better come back with everything that you left. You know, he wanted to know if you had intercourse or not, you know. And, but everything, little thing, sexual, they were always checking on us, you know. Yeah, they had you scared. But one girl thought that you got pregnant just holding hands.
They had shop on this floor here, then home economics on above.
Yeah, so I had my tonsils out, and I can remember trying to fool them. They used to put us to sleep with the ether. So they put a mask over us and we'd be tied down. And they'd pour that ether over our nose right like this and wait a while. And you would have to inhale that, you know. And then they'd put some more on there again until you actually fell asleep from the ether. and then they take your tonsils out.
And there's the hospital over there. If you want to get up closer. Yeah, I spent a year in that building, the hospital.
And then we always laughed about there was a head in there he had in a bottle. We'd show everybody that got admitted to the hospital. You want to see the head in there? It was in a jar he'd saved. Appendix too were saved. He had them in a little bottle. So you want your appendix back? You know, they save those.
Just kept getting one thing right after the other. I had infection in my ear. Then I had whooping cough, mumps, measles, you name it, I had it. And I had no help with my schoolwork. I ended up failing.
My brother was in sick there, and they said he just had a cough and a cold. And they would never let my father go up to see him. So one day my father came and he told the nurse he was going up to see his son, and there was nothing she could do to stop him. And she said that she would call the principal, and he told her, call the principal. He pushed her out of the way and he went up. He says when he got up there, the stench was so bad he couldn't even hardly breathe. And he went in and there was my brother. The principal came running up after him, telling him to leave, and he told the principal, he said, if you don't want to go down those stairs, he said, you better leave. He says, and you better call the ambulance. So they called an ambulance, and the ambulance came. My brother was in Brantford General Hospital for 6 months. He had pleurisy, and he was there for 6 months. Then he was transferred to Lady Wellington Hospital in Oswego for 3 more months. When he came out of the hospital, he was so weak he couldn't even hold a pencil. And he just never ever really got better. He died an alcoholic.
What we see and the people we work with, there is multi-generational alcoholism in a lot of the families that we've worked with. And we do genealogy charts usually with the family to find out who their family is and what their resources they might have. And we do find that some of the parents or grandparents that they had were in boarding schools.
I would like to share with you part of my childhood and the effects boarding school has had on me. My father attended the Thomas Indian School. My grandfather went to Carlisle.
My mother and father were both in a boarding school, and my father was married before he married my mother, so he had 2 children, and they were sent away to boarding school. So I might say 2 generations there were in boarding school. My mother went to Thomas Indian School, and my father was at Carlisle, which was in Pennsylvania.
We all found the one that men sit together. I just want to grab a picture of my mom. She had an Indian name, and the name that she had was to be a faith keeper's name. When she came out of that school, she couldn't speak a lick of Seneca.
You can see the difficulty in when the families try to parent their children, that the lack of bonding with their children, some anger, as a matter of fact, there's a lot of anger and alcoholism. So those are some things that I see on a regular basis from families that had a relative or parent or grandparent who were in boarding schools.
I was ready for bed. Mom made Daddy get me up. I thought I was already ready for school. Okay? Got me up and cut all my hair up to right below my ear. She cut about that much. That was the last time I was allowed long hair. That's abuse.
And that was standard practice at the boarding school?
Yeah.
Everybody went through that one.
Everyone, you see? But that was another thing. We don't know
Carryover.
if that was a carryover. We don't know.
She was trained to be a domestic. She learned the art of physical punishment